So today's video is aimed at family, partners, friends, bosses, colleagues of those people who have ME and chronic fatigue syndrome. So in this video, I wanted to give you an idea of what someone with ME or chronic fatigue syndrome basically suffers with on a day-to-day basis, and it fluctuates all the time. So you might not know that this is how we feel who have got the condition, and it's not your fault. That's the whole point of this video, is to give you an idea of what it actually feels like, and might make you think just before you might say something that you think's funny, or you don't realise that it's actually upsetting someone who's suffering with a disease. So the first thing I wanted to go over was sleep. Yeah, I know it's probably obvious that we sleep a lot. Sometimes we might go to bed really early and we won't wake up until the afternoon. Sometimes you might find that we don't go to sleep until really late and we sleep into the afternoon. Sometimes you might find that we go to sleep really late and we'll wake up really early. So some of the things you might not want to say to someone who's got ME or chronic fatigue syndrome is, don't go to bed so late. Afternoon. Sometimes when I get into bed, I am completely exhausted and then I'll sit there and for some reason my brain will just kick in and I won't be able to go to sleep whatsoever. And it's like this morning, I randomly woke up at 10 to 7 before my alarm went off, which did actually help me out. Some of the times I've been able to go to sleep for about midnight and I'll probably sleep until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but it'll feel like I haven't slept at all. Reasons for that might be because people with ME and chronic fatigue syndrome don't get enough deep sleep, or they don't go into REM sleep, which is basically the dreaming stage of your sleep. Another thing that's reported with people with ME and chronic fatigue syndrome is that they experience what's called an adrenaline rush, and that might happen at any time, so it might explain why sometimes when they get into bed, they can't get to sleep because basically they're wired but tired. Which is probably the worst thing if you've been exhausted all day and you've been pushing yourself to stay awake. You go to bed and then you can't go to sleep. The other thing is it also depends on what sort of medication they're on. So when it comes to things like pregabalin and gabapentin, that can actually help you sleep a little bit better. But when you're on things like amitriptyline, a lot of people who are on it know that it turns you into a bit of a zombie. Certainly know that when I've taken amitriptyline, I still struggle to get to sleep, but then you can't even wake me up. Next on the list, pain. Please don't tell us you know how we feel. Try this. Have you taken that? Trust me, we're trying everything. Backwards and forwards to the doctors, taking this medication, that medication. Being so dramatic. Not really helpful when you're in constant pain, and it can fluctuate over time. Sometimes you might be able to live with it and it doesn't really bother you. Other times you'll sit there and it feels like someone's just stuck a dagger in the back of your eye. So when someone sits there saying, oh, you're being dramatic, would you say that someone who's just had the leg chopped off? Obviously not. But yeah, certainly pain is a really big factor when it comes to ME and chronic fatigue syndrome, especially if you've been diagnosed with another condition like fibromyalgia to throw into the mix of it. You've got to understand it's not like a normal pain. It can feel like nerve pain, muscle spasm pain, joint pain. If you imagine how rough you feel when you've got flu, but then you've got flu every single day, then you might sort of touch on how we're actually feeling. Another one that's high up on the list is brain fog. I know it's hard. Some people are a little bit thicker skinned than others, some are quite thin skinned, and some are actually feeling so terrible. So try not to take the mickey out of us if we lose our words. We'll get the words mixed up. It's not our fault, it is part of brain fog. Some people do take it on the chin and just joke along with it. Others, it can affect them quite badly. Next subject, it changes. This disease constantly changes. It's why it's called a fluctuating disease. For instance, me talking to you right now, you might think that I am completely fine and completely healthy. No, not at the moment, not right now. For instance, I'm sat here at the moment, I actually feel exhausted. I've got really bad pain behind my eye. My ears are ringing. And after this, I'll probably lay on the bed and go for a sleep. One day you might actually find that we can go out and do some shopping with you. You might even be graced with our presence and might find us at the pub. Trust me, the next day we'll suffer for it. Might not necessarily be the next day. Might be a couple of days. Might be the following week. But it doesn't matter. That's all part of the post-exertional malaise part of it. So yeah, you might find that one day we're back to our old selves, we're still poorly on the inside, and trust me, we will suffer for it afterwards and we'll have to spend some time actually getting over it. But it's not a fact of us putting it on. This disease really does suck. Next one. You don't look or sound ill. Sort of what I've already just gone over on the last topic. Again, I look completely fine. Trust me, I'm not. As I say, we might actually be on some good medication. It is actually making a difference at that time. Then you might find that the following week, the medication doesn't really help anymore and we're back to square one again. And if you're trying your hardest to actually look like you're okay, and you're actually just trying to live life as best as you can because you're sick of being inside all the time or stuck in bed. And yeah, if we've actually pushed ourselves to go out and we want to try and be as normal as possible, we might not look or sound ill. But you really wouldn't say that to somebody who's got rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, cancer, or any other serious condition. Next one, we've probably heard loads of times, is see a doctor. I've been to see my doctors that many times now, I could probably go in and give him a fist bump. Honestly, we're constantly back and forwards to the doctors trying to figure out things for medication-wise, things for help us with the pain, fatigue. If our hearts suddenly start playing up and you're getting like palpitations, and there might not actually be anything wrong with your heart, it's just that your body is telling you you've got palpitations, even though your heartbeat's actually normal. Or like I recently found out is that it can muck your blood pressure up. It might have something to do with what's called ANS, autonomic nervous system. Now again, I'm not a doctor, I ain't got a clue about that sort of stuff. But that's, from what I understand, is basically your how your body manages everything for your living type of thing. Heart rate, blood pressure, breathing. It's all the stuff that you probably take for granted because you're just getting on with life. One that's probably said to people quite a lot. To the gym. Oh, why would you go to the gym? Yeah, we're a lot of conditions. The more exercise you get, the more energy your body gets. But when it comes to ME and chronic fatigue syndrome, you don't have the energy in the first place to go to the gym. So you imagine if you've got like half a battery pretty much all the time, and that just goes down to about even like a third because you're just living. It'll be near enough on empty when you go to the gym. And the other thing with ME chronic fatigue syndrome is that regardless of how much you sleep, you don't actually get to a full battery. And if you want to get back up to half a battery again, it can take you a very, very long time, which is why they no longer say that you should go to the gym as part of your treatment. When you've got things like fibromyalgia, yes, that does help with the pain side of it. But when it comes to ME chronic fatigue syndrome, it has a complete opposite, which is why they tell you it's extremely dangerous. And you're basically pushing your body to exhaustion, which is why it's not unheard of that people can actually die of ME and chronic fatigue syndrome. But that also goes into the fact that they're dehydrated or possibly malnourished, or there's some other disease that they're living alongside of which actually ends up killing them as well. So yeah, believe me, we'd probably love to go to the gym. I honestly miss going to the gym. There's nothing worse than spending your day laying in bed or sitting on the sofa. I'd rather be at the gym pumping some iron, doing some pull-ups, doing some press-ups, doing some sit-ups. A couple of weeks ago, I tried doing some yoga and it set me back a week. Keeping in mind when I say yoga, I basically mean stretching. But yeah, please don't tell us to go to the gym. It's a pretty stupid idea. And the last thing for you to be aware of is that this disease is probably not taken as seriously as what it should be. For a long time, it was always said that people who get ME and chronic fatigue syndrome should get on with their life. Go out and have fun. Go to the gym. Get out in the sun. Those type of things, they really don't help at all. It's only just about now that doctors are starting to take it more seriously. Governments are starting to take it more seriously. But that's probably the same as quite a lot of other conditions that are out there. It's always taken quite a lot of time for these things to become more serious and to be taken more seriously. So yeah, saying go out and get some sun, yeah, great, vitamin D. The only downside to it is because our temperature fluctuates quite a lot. And for, just sitting in a house, you can suddenly get into a sweat and feel really hot. There's days where you have to go out and stand out in the freezing cold just to feel a little bit better again. Probably going out into the heat is not a good idea. Go out and enjoy yourself? Yeah, of course, if you can go out and enjoy yourself, go out and enjoy yourself. Just remember, you're bringing your battery down. So yeah, please do try and take the disease seriously. It's taken a long time for the powers that be to actually start taking it more seriously. And it's not all in people's heads. It's more and more recognized now that ME and chronic fatigue syndrome is nothing to do psychologically wise, which is why it's always known as a post-viral disease. Why there was quite a big uptake in cases being reported from long COVID or glandular fever or whatever else infection you might get. So yeah, please do excuse us if we get a bit mardy around you, if you might just want to have a laugh with us, or you say something and you don't really see the reason why we might take offense to it. I'm hoping that this video just gives you an idea of basically why. If you want to know anything else, leave us a comment. Please do give us a like. And if you want, subscribe. Okay then, thanks very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.